Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive on The Explainer. Today we're tackling something literally every aquarium owner wrestles with at some point. We're analyzing the true, long-term outcomes of doing your own aquarium maintenance versus hiring a professional service. Now, if you spend any time at all on hobbyist forums, you know just how passionately this DIY versus pro debate gets argued. It's incredibly easy to just assume that hauling your own water automatically saves you money, right? But the source material we're unpacking today paints a very different, highly detailed picture of what really happens over time.
So you have to ask yourself, is your DIY maintenance routine secretly costing you more? We're essentially looking at the classic iceberg scenario of aquarium care here. On paper, wiping down your own glass or doing your own water changes seems practically free, aside from basic supplies like salt mix and RO/DI water. But keeping a tank thriving, it's rarely just about occasional cleaning. Beneath the surface of that weekly routine are long-term unseen factors. We're talking about slowly degrading silicone seals, micro scratches on the glass from a stray grain of sand in your mag float, or the slow accumulation of detritus deep inside your plumbing.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the Closed Ecosystem Challenge. A home aquarium is what's formally known as a closed water system, meaning it's a contained environment requiring precise, consistent management of highly volatile parameters. We are talking about tracking temperature, nitrate, phosphate, and specific gravity. You see, these are incredibly sensitive, delicate biochemical ecosystems. In the ocean, a small environmental shift is instantly diluted by millions of gallons of water. But in a closed water system, the invisible chemical changes happening in those 50 or 100 gallons, they have massive immediate stakes for the life inside. To put that into perspective, a rapid 2-degree temperature swing from a faulty heater can instantly crash your fish's immune systems. Boom, you've got a massive itch outbreak overnight before you even realize the water feels a bit cold. Our source material anchors on this one absolutely crucial concept. Small errors compound fast in closed water systems. This is the foundational idea for today's whole explainer. In a typical DIY routine, it's so easy to miss gradual changes. Your tank might look absolutely fine on the surface when you walk by it, but underneath, subtle imbalances like a slowly creeping alkalinity drop or rising magnesium levels might already be triggering invisible stress responses in your livestock, laying the groundwork for a very sudden, very rapid decline. Moving right along to Section 2, when small errors compound. Let's actually trace how this cascade effect plays out from micro to macro. It always starts with something practically invisible, like a missed salinity shift during a hurried midweek top-off. Let's say that happens on a Tuesday. By Thursday or Friday, that shift silently leads to the slow decline of the beneficial bacteria that support your biological filtration. And before you realize anything is even wrong, you wake up on Saturday morning to a major cyanobacteria bloom and heavily stressed, gasping livestock. A single missed parameter on a random Tuesday leads directly to a visible, highly stressful tank crash that completely ruins your entire weekend. And you know what's even more frustrating? A lot of these crashes are caused by owners actively trying to help. Our source highlights these common, totally well-intentioned DIY mistakes: rinsing filter media and tap water, overcleaning surfaces, or changing media way too aggressively. Take that first one, rinsing media in the sink. The chlorine and chloramine in standard municipal tap water will instantly decimate your colonies of nitrifying bacteria. You think, hey, I'm getting the tank sparkling clean, but actually, scratch that. You are inadvertently stripping away the biological engine that the entire ecosystem relies on to convert toxic ammonia into harmless nitrate. So how do the experts handle this? Section 3, Professional Prevention Strategies. DIY maintenance is so often focused on reaction, trial and error, and, well, guesswork. You see a problem, you guess the root cause, and you just kind of hope your fix works. Professional maintenance, on the other hand, is built entirely around measurement, proper testing protocols, and pattern recognition. Trained technicians aren't guessing. They are tracking data. For example, a professional will notice a slow, incremental pH dip over a 3-week period and adjust a dosing schedule accordingly. A DIYer? They usually only notice something is wrong when their prized corals start bleaching or losing tissue. A massive part of that professional prevention is catching deviations early. Because aquarium health is so heavily parameter-driven, catching a deviation early can literally mean the difference between a minor tweak and a full-blown system reset. Technicians are trained to identify wear and tear on components way before they actually fail.
An off-target heater or a return pump losing efficiency might not be obvious to an owner at all, but if a return pump loses just 15% of its flow rate, it drastically reduces gas exchange at the water surface. That can silently suffocate the tank before the owner even notices the water level changing in their sump. A pro spots this immediately.
So, what does this all mean for your wallet? Section 4, the true cost analysis.
Let's actually walk through this balance sheet together, shifting our perspective away from just those short-term DIY savings. First, you've got the hidden compounding costs of DIY. There's a constant churn of buying expensive water testing supplies, dosing products, replacement parts, buckets, and siphons. Plus, you absolutely have to factor in your own personal time and labor. Think about the literal hours spent hauling heavy buckets of water across your living room floor or scraping stubborn, rock-hard green coralline algae off the back glass on a Sunday afternoon when you'd much rather be relaxing. And the real financial drain? The repeat fixes for persistent algae, fluctuating pH, or chronically cloudy water. Now compare that to the professional advantages. You get plans tailored specifically to your tank's exact bioload. You get consistent equipment maintenance that actually prolongs the life of your expensive gear. And most importantly, you prevent those major system resets. That prevention value is exactly where the real long-term savings are built in.
And this financial dynamic becomes even more critical depending on the type of tank you're keeping. Complex setups demand extreme precision. We're talking about saltwater tanks, intricate reef systems, planted tanks with specific CO2 demands, and aquariums carrying high livestock loads. The more complex your system is, the easier it is for one tiny DIY deviation to create incredibly costly downstream effects. If you're dealing with the extreme fragility of SPS acropora corals or managing the massive, messy bioload of keeping multiple tangs in a large display, having that specialized knowledge is absolutely paramount to protecting your investment.
Which brings us to the inevitable rescue missions. Section 5, Systematic Troubleshooting and Recovery. The contrast between DIY and professional crisis response is genuinely staggering. When a DIYer faces an emergency, the response usually involves sheer panic, which leads to broad, potentially destabilizing changes to the water chemistry. For example, a panicked hobbyist seeing an ammonia spike might instinctively do a massive 80% water change. That sudden, drastic shift in parameters completely shocks the remaining livestock, almost always doing more harm than the initial spike. A professional's response to a rescue mission is calm, methodical, and totally data-driven. They run targeted tests, review the recent maintenance history, and recommend a highly focused systematic correction plan, like executing targeted 10% daily changes to slowly and safely restore balance. And in any crisis, speed matters. It's all about minimizing the stress windows for your fish. A stress window is the exact amount of time your livestock's immune systems are compromised by poor water quality before secondary infections set in. A professional's speed and precision greatly reduce the risk of cascading failures during this window. Imagine an equipment malfunction happening at the exact same time as a major water chemistry swing. A pro knows exactly how to isolate those issues, triage the most immediate threat, and stabilize the environment quickly. Whereas a delayed or panicked DIY response could so easily compound the disaster. So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. What is the true price of your peace of mind? The source material makes it abundantly clear that while DIY can certainly work for some owners, particularly those with simple setups, highly resilient species, and very disciplined monitoring habits, the hidden costs of repeated troubleshooting are incredibly steep. When you account for prevention, equipment longevity, and the immense financial value of avoiding total system crashes, professional aquarium maintenance often delivers far better results over the long term. It's not just about paying someone to clean up. It's about investing in the stability and health of a delicate ecosystem. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this gives you a much clearer, structured way to look at the real costs of aquarium care. Catch you next time.